Welcome to episode 5 of our Picard season review series. And we were just talking before we hit record about Ensign Ro, and then I remembered to hit record. So we're already in the middle of this conversation, and we're going to catch you up, dear listener or watcher. So Adam was talking about
It's going
Ro.
well. Yeah, so we got Ro. Ro's back from TNG. I vaguely remember Ro because, again, I'm not a massive Trek fan like you, but I remember. I remember that she betrayed Riker or something on a shuttle or something. I can't remember exactly the scene, but she joined the Marquis, I think, at one point. At that point,
Yeah,
and so that was just a betrayal of Starfleet, basically.
Yeah, in the penultimate episode of Star Trek TNG season 7, in preemptive strike, she decides to join the Maquis cause. She is in a shuttle, betraying Riker. She pulled a rifle out on him, or a phaser pistol out on him, and then she upset Picard because that was basically his prodigy in a way, his who he was mentoring. And then she comes back 30 years later. Since you aren't really that hardcore into it, how did you feel that Ro came back onto the show? Were you like, oh, wow, that's a neat reference? Or could you justify her coming back? Run it through me.
It was a bit of a strange decision because, I don't know, it's just sort of, I'm not a very well-known character, sort of like you have to be a fan to sort of get the reference or know who that character is or what the big deal was at the time of her appearance. So any casual viewer would be like, they sort of let you know straight away with some back and forth dialogue between her and Riker and like Ro herself that, okay, this is a familiar character from their past. Like I say, there seems to be like some sort of a thing with like, is it Picard, protege, but could be more than a protege, you know? Could be a love interest in sort of some sorts back in the day, maybe, I don't know. But it was interesting enough to sort of have her in it. At first, you're thinking, okay, is it a changeling again? But obviously, it's not. Picard quickly susses that out by taking. Well, he goes to the bar again, doesn't he? And they have a conversation and dialogue in there again, and he sort of quickly discovers that okay, it is her. And she's been doing her own investigation, and she's got loads of research and stuff like that. Long story short, I mean, she just gives them all the research in the end, and so which they can then use and stuff. And then ultimately, she does sacrifice herself at the end, so you're getting rid of a legacy character straight away. So that's a big thing, kind of a big deal. I don't know how significant that was to you, being a major fan of it, but to me, it looked like a good scene. It felt like it did have an impactful sort of. It wasn't like a death that felt insignificant. It felt like a thing that was like properly done. I don't know. The episode itself was okay. Just sort of like a more self-contained episode where they just discussed her involvement with everything and Picard's relationship with her, and then obviously it tells basically Shaw then that, oh yeah, this is actually real. It's not just them taking the myth or them just having that sort of conspiracy theories. This thing's real, and Starfleet has been infiltrated, and Shaw sees that with obviously the very sort of self-sacrificing scene of Ro just jettisoning herself into the ship that's turned up to sort of come and arrest Riker and Picard. I did like the scene where like they've just come back from episode 4 or whatever, and they're just like, okay, it's time to like contact Starfleet and face the music as Picard says, and then Shaw's like, I've already done it. I've already contacted them. So you get your bullshit stories together, and they're on the way already. It's just like, oh, all right then. Yeah, I like that. Again, I liked him as well. I like the character of Shaw and stuff. I know you're not a big fan or whatever, but I still think he's a decent character. I think most of the new characters in Picard, actually, some of them are actually pretty good. Like Geordie's daughter and Shaw, and I know Seven's not a new character, but she also goes into that dynamic as well because she's part of the Titan crew. And I just feel there's a good dynamic between some of the new characters, and it's not just like been sort of hammered in like in a cheap way. It feels sort of natural, and they get on. There's some good chemistry.
It's interesting to listen to you over these episodes because it's like an exploration of what makes Trek acceptable to a normie.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously you've got to like that's what I mean. It's made for like two audiences, really. It's crazy, really, because you've got to sort of open it up to a normal casual audience, and then obviously you've got to sort of appeal to the core fan base, which is all brought this whole thing to the dance really, which is the Trek fan base.
But it would be harder to please the hardcore, I would say, to a certain degree. But okay, so going back onto Ro, I didn't find a lot of her believable because they said the Maquis were wiped out in DS9, but I'm willing to believe that some survived. There's always a group of survivors. The first thing she does is basically go back into Starfleet.
Yeah.
Then she works in Starfleet intelligence. Now I can see maybe there's some value with her being in Starfleet intelligence if they wanted to like find other Maquis operatives and start legal proceedings against certain Federation citizens or ex-Starfleet officers, and they cut her a deal. But then she's always just self-serving in a way so that she survives. So she survived under Picard, then she flipped because she wanted to survive with the Maquis, but also she doesn't believe in the Federation anymore. And then she flips back. And I just find that highly unlikely. And then I was having this out with people on Twitter. I didn't understand how her last commanding officer, and that would be Picard, wouldn't get told that they've got Ensign or Lieutenant Ro Laren back. He was never informed, and then it's a surprise because it's a big reveal. And then he still manages to hold on to that anger against someone that he probably thought died 30 years ago. Didn't understand that. And then why specifically Starfleet intelligence? She could have been a Fenris Ranger. She could have been a Bajoran and envoy, but no, she got back right into Starfleet intelligence again. Again, there's some value to it because she had tactical training, but understanding the history and then the character, it just seemed this show should have been made 5 years after Nemesis because the timeline, there's things that should have been resolved 30 years ago are being resolved now, and yet everyone's much older and it's history. I mean, if you were bullied at school, it's not the same thing, but it's the first thing I can think of. If you get bullied at school and then you see the bully 30 years later, are you going to be upset or are you going to be like judging him and thinking, well, I got the better end of that deal, so we were just kids. But it's not a good analogy, but I'm just trying to find an example of how you can reconcile. How can you not reconcile with somebody from 30 years ago, which is basically now the past, especially when he's got a kid.
Yeah,
things are more important now, and straight away he's like really angry towards her. That's why I'm saying
it should have been. Grudge.
Yeah, he's held a grudge for that long, and he's rehearsed it. But again, he thought she died. So why would you rehearse something against someone that you thought died? that part is so weird. And then there was one good thing, a good scene that was undermined because you think Ro's back, but you also think it's not the real Ro. The shapeshifters are manipulating Picard to get what they want.
Yeah.
So they're bringing someone back from his past. They go to the bar. They get emotional with each other. And Picard says, I got the line here. Picard says, well, if that pain tells us anything, it tells us who we say we are. Because the changelings, you can only ask them so many questions. And then they're like, oh, you're a fake. And so a shapeshifter would not get emotional to the degree that Ro did. And I liked what came before that line. Not the line itself. It's superior to show something rather than tell something when it comes to writing. And so they had that scene and they get emotional. There's that quiet moment where they're both who they say they are. And then Picard says that line. Instead, his next line should have been, why are you here, Ro? And that would have been the acknowledgement. You didn't need to tell us, oh, the pain. If it tells us anything, then you were truly who you are. So I didn't like that. And then after all that emotional handoff, they kill her, and I just thought, okay, I wonder if this gets discussed in episode 6. And luckily, we will talk about episode 6, but it doesn't. She's not mentioned again. Her sacrifice was just there to move the plot forward, and there's nothing else for Picard to reflect on now. And someone made the great point. I'll read this to you about her earring. What I found most frustrating was the earring as plot device. It was brilliant and poignant when she handed it to him, and then they undercut it all with the big reveal. It didn't need to contain intelligence. It could have just been Ro signaling to Picard that, after all these years, after everything that happened, he's still family to her. But no, it had to be useful. It's extraordinary to me how poorly Kurtzman and his production crew understand their own franchise. That earring was mentioned in the very first episode when Ro appeared. So It's been set up by accident, or it's been set up as something that Terry Matalis can pick up again and then use as a send off. Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's a real shame. It didn't need to be about the plot. It could have been something else, but everything is so focused around this plot. It undercuts it. Yeah, and you can see the evidence of it because she's not mentioned again ever again in the rest of this series so far.
Oh, they've got bigger fish to focus on. You can't be wallowing in that now. You got to move on.
That's terrible, though.
Plot moves on. Plot moves on.
There was a big kerfuffle on Twitter amongst some of the production crew who were showing, oh, look at the glory of this scene, and you see the USS Intrepid on fire, and it's like sinking in space somehow. They don't get the physics right. If it's already in space and the engine blows, so the warp nacelle blows, why is it sinking like a maritime ship, like a maritime vessel? Why is it right? But in terms of aesthetics, when it starts to rise, you get the impression, oh, it's pissed off.
Okay, yeah.
But in actual real world physics, ships won't do that.
Well, there's got to be a lot of visual things that please the audience.
I know. It'll please some people, and they'll share the screenshot and celebrate it on Twitter. But the rest of us are like, yeah, but a ship wouldn't do that. And why is it on fire? Why are there still flames burning when it's in the cold vacuum of space?
there's loads of things you could nip back at, like when they warp away. It's like, why can't they just follow the warp core trace or whatever it is when they warp away? Why can't the ships follow them? They just sort of lose them. You know what I mean?
The episode 5, the ship can't go to warp. The Intrepid can't create a warp bubble, so it can't follow them.
I'm just meaning about when they've done it in the past, kind of future episodes now where they warp away.
Oh, you can mask it.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. This show doesn't explain, and then at the same time, they explain things on Twitter, and it's like, why didn't you put that in the show? Like Terry Matalis says, like the Changeling ship, the Shrike, is full of Changelings. Everyone is a Changeling, and we'll get to that later.
Right. So, yeah, I was going to ask.
Okay.
We'll
get to that later. But the shapeshifters that beam on board, there's 4 of them that go after Jack.
Yeah.
And Jack kills them all. He sort of activates, and he goes all.
He's like Neo.
Yeah, he goes all Neo on them. Did you notice that Dahl? I can't remember her name, but the android girl does that in season 1. She activates and she kills all the Romulans. Right. So it's this Born Identity sort of homage, but it's overplayed. But so he kills 4 of them outright, and that just I know what it's I know what the scene is doing. It does look cool, but it's also saying Jack is an amazing force to reckon with if he understands who he is.
Right.
I know what it's doing, but do you know how many changelings died in Deep Space Nine, in the entirety of Deep Space Nine?
1 or 2?
Only 2 changelings died, and you needed Odo in order to get to those 2 changelings. Yeah. Odo was instrumental. The changelings were always sort of like this background threat, and they were really fearsome because you didn't know if anybody was a changeling, and the show played to that rather than actually giving you changelings. And even when they go to Earth for 2 episodes, and the changeling says, the Miles O'Brien changeling says to Sisko, "How many changelings do you think there are here?" He's like, "We've got 3 fuckers, and we're causing all this damage." And then Odo at the end of the episode is like, "Well, don't you care that there's changelings on Earth, and there's nothing we can do?" But here, he kills 4 of them outright, and it sort of undercuts. And as we go through the episodes, it undercuts the lethality and how dangerous shapeshifters can be. And this is the beginning. When you see this, you think, "Oh my god, they create this formidable foe. They say how amazing they are now because they've got all these augmentations." And then Jack kills 4 of them, and yet they were really special on Deep Space Nine. Do you remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when, in the beginning, this is a reference that stuck with me for ages, but I'm sorry about this. But in the beginning of Teenage Mutant Ninja, the thing, I can't speak. The foot soldiers were humans, and then Shredder switched them to robots.
Yeah,
and then they were just cannon fodder. But the foot soldiers in the first few episodes were formidable against the turtles. That was the thing. And then they downplayed them. And that's what they've done in this series. They just get easier because they have to be.
Yeah, I was going to wonder what they were. I was kind of wondering if they were fully changelings or they were actually just normal people or crew members. I don't know. It was not really sort of highlighted or clear what they were. But I guess, like you say, if he's cleared up on Twitter and said, "Yeah, they are," then it does sort of really sort of water down the threat even more now, I guess.
And we've got the benefit of hindsight of the other episodes that are coming, but we'll talk about
Mm,
that later. Yeah, I will tell you something I did like, and I'm sure you liked it as well because you're a fucking normie. But the Vulcan Gangster, I thought that's actually quite interesting to have a Vulcan Gangster, which
okay.
is like justifying crime in terms of logic. It wasn't explored very well, but I do
Mm.
like.
It's something that you can expand upon if you ever wanted to, because there's
Yes, you
that
could.
whole criminal underworld sort of thing, other side, that dark side, which is there. They've established it's there, but they've never really explored it. It was an interesting premise to have in part of the world or universe.
And Janeway says in an episode of Voyager that you can use logic to justify anything. And so I was thinking of that
Mm,
with this Vulcan. But most Vulcans are conformists, so they'll just do what their
yeah.
culture says. But there's an episode in season 7 of TNG called Gambit. It explores a little bit of the dark side of Romulan history, and they used to have this weapon that would kill you if you had negative thoughts. That's the whole point of the Romulans. The Romulans are from
Yeah.
Vulcan, but they're the ones who rejected the modern Vulcan philosophy. So it's entirely plausible that there's going to be other Romulans who are just like on the extreme
Oh yeah, yeah.
end of things and say, "I want to be a gangster. I want to be an OnlyFans creator." You know, they'll justify it through logic.
Fucking hell. All right.
So yeah, I did like the gangster, but I didn't like how Reverie talking shit to everyone on the planet, acting well hard with Worf, and it's just so cheesy.
I don't like any of her scenes. It just takes me out of it completely.
Yeah, I have more to say about
I,
her
I
later.
like I like the fact that like the season as a whole so far, it's got me sort of like cautionally optimistic and stuff. I say that because obviously I mean, we're on 8 now. Is it 9? Got 2 more episodes left after 8. And I'm just going to like, how are they going to end this? Is it going to be terrible? I like the character of Jack, but are they going to ruin him by having him be like her from season 1, where he's like a super sort of weapon, sort of human being hybrid thing that's going to. I just don't want him to be ruined like that because I feel like he's a decent character, but then they've got this main sort of subplot where he's like, he's this all kicking ass and he
Yeah.
can do anything. Sort of, and it's like, oh, they're gonna ruin it. And they've got the red door thing, and I'm like, what that? And I'm like, oh no, what are they gonna do? And it's on the horizon, and I'm worried.
To quote Captain Shaw, I'm wondering how they get their bullshit story together with how
Mm.
they're going to end this because again, we'll talk about it probably in episode 8 review.
Yeah,
I,
like I've liked the interactions of all the characters. I've liked the acting. I've liked the TNG crew still have great chemistry together on the screen. Everything's going really well, and it's just like I know it's not perfect. I know that, but it's going really well in terms of it's like say like the first few episodes of this has been like probably the best, like you say, the best Trek that has been Trek for a while, right?
bullshit.
So,
Bullshit.
well, it has. And then you hear about Kurtzman coming back, and he wants to do like a Star Trek Academy thing, and I'm like, oh god, no.
Yeah, go on.
Well, because it's like teen drama coming up, and I'm like, it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be terrible.
The fact that it's
That's
set
all I can.
in the Discovery timeline is even more of like the icing on this turd cake that they're going to give to everybody. But the idea of a Starfleet Academy TV show has gone way back from like to Kirk's time. During
Yeah,
the TNG era, they would talk about let's have a prequel series about Kirk, and even Star Trek 6, they wanted
yeah,
it to be a prequel and have them all at
yeah.
university. They still don't have an original idea of their own. It's fascinating. How do you get given a license to the franchise and you have no original ideas? You're all just cruising off what was made from Trek 20, 30 years ago. It
Yeah.
blows my mind. But hey, I'm not in charge.
Well, he
Yeah,
also wants to like. Well, Terry Metalis wants to. It's not official yet, and he's not sort of even employed after this Picard thing. But it's like he wants to do another sort of spin-off series, doesn't he? I've read online that it wants to be like Star Trek Legacy or something, and he wants to actually do the characters of like Shaw, Geordie, and stuff like that, and Seven and stuff like that on like a spin-off sort of series. And I think that could be a pretty interesting thing to go down. Like I wanted that anyway. Like I said to you, I thought that'd be a really cool idea. And obviously it's up in the air whether that's going to be a thing or not. But that could be interesting. It sounds a lot better than fucking Star Trek Academy.
Do you have anything else to say about this episode? Overall, you're happy with
Uh,
it, aren't you? I'm just mind blown.
I thought no, I thought it was like an okay episode, but it wasn't like mind blowing or anything like that. It wasn't like the last couple of episodes before it that came, I felt like were better. Like I say, you can't really moan about the acting. I like the little scenes
I
between, the little
can.
dialogues between characters and stuff like that. But I know you can. You could go on all day about it. But for me, it was like it was all right. Like I've got nothing else to say about it. I've just got loads of notes on the other episodes that are
Okay.
coming up.
Let's end this episode, and then we can save some time and then get
Yeah.
into episode 6.